Hello everyone, and welcome to the Man on the Moon. Now, today I wanted to go ahead and talk about the different types of cryptocurrencies out there and help better categorize some of these coins so that people can better understand their use cases, their intentions, and the differences between them. Now, some of these cryptocurrencies are going to be very similar in their use case and in their design, while others are going to be completely different in both use case and in design. So I wanted to go ahead and clear up maybe some of the differences between these coins and then break down some of them into different use case categories. So the first distinction I wanted to make in cryptocurrency is the difference between proof of work cryptocurrencies and proof of stake cryptocurrencies. So proof of work cryptocurrencies were the original cryptocurrencies that were made back when Bitcoin was first invented back in 2009. For those wanting to learn how proof of work cryptocurrencies and blockchain works in more depth, if you go back to my first video or click the link up there in the icon, then you can go ahead and watch my first video where I go into a little bit more detail there. Whereas in this video, I'm going to focus a little bit more on explaining proof of stake. Now, of course, if you don't want to go back and watch that video, or if you have, just want a refresher, let me just go briefly over how proof of work cryptocurrencies work. So proof of work cryptocurrencies relies on computing power, or rather the ability of miners to solve a cryptographic hash function in order to generate a hash for a new block that is to be minted and put onto the blockchain. So essentially, if you are the first miner to come up with the solution to the cryptographic hash function, you are then going to be selected as the individual that's going to create the new block and validate all of the entries, or rather all of the transactions on the new block generated. Now, the issue with proof of work mining is it requires a lot of computing power, or rather it incentivizes people to accumulate more computing power in order to be the miner that solves the cryptographic hash function and then earns the reward for being that person that solves it. Because of the incentive for people to go ahead and generate a lot of computing power, there has been a lot of controversy around proof of work cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, because of the heavy amount of energy that is needed in order to do all of this computing in order to increase your chances of being the miner that successfully mines or solves the cryptographic hash function first.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yes.
Not to mention the fact that also when you're working with proof of work cryptocurrencies, this incentivizes people to create pools where large groups of people put their computing power together in order to increase everyone's chances collectively of being the ones to solving the cryptographic hash function. The irony of this is instead of creating more of a decentralized network as Bitcoin sought out to do, it can in turn create a more centralized system as people will join together in order to increase their chances of being the ones to mine the block. So in 2011, there was a new proposal created to kind of solve a lot of the issues that proof of work had generated. And that new method was called proof of stake. Now, proof of stake relies on a totally different system than proof of work in order to function. So instead of having miners solving a cryptographic hash function, you instead have validators. Now, these validators create what are called nodes, and they then submit a stake or a certain amount of the coin as their stake in order to be a node or a validator within the system. So compared to proof of work, instead of just having the first miner to solve the algorithm be the one to generate the new block and trusting the longest blockchain, in the proof of stake situation, a validator or a node is randomly selected to be the validator for that specific block and those transactions within that block. Now, how they're selected is usually based upon a few factors depending on the way the proof of stake has been set up for that specific cryptocurrency. In most cases, there's a few factors that are taken into consideration or that carry more weight in your chances of being selected as the potential validator. The first is the amount of stake that you have entered in order to be a node or a validator for that specific block. So the more money or the more coins you have submitted as your stake, the higher chance you would have of being the validator. Now, obviously, you don't want to solely rely on the size of a stake. Otherwise, that incentivizes the rich to go ahead and abuse the system and then generate more wealth from it, as they're always going to have a higher chance of being selected as the validator and are therefore going to be the ones that receive the reward for having been a validator or a node. Which, when we're talking about a proof of stake, is actually not considered mined coins. They're called forged or minted coins. So instead of just having the size of the stake be a factor, there's also the age of the stake, or rather how long you've had a proof of stake invested into the system. So for example, if someone new comes to a coin and dumps millions of dollars in, and you had someone else who's been with the project since basically day one have a few thousand coins submitted as their stake, it's possible that they may have an equal or close to equal chance of being the validator for the next block. Now, on top of this, there's also backup validators that are selected in case the validator who's supposed to validate the block and submit it is unable to do so.
Bueller.
So the incentive here is if a validator decides to move forward with submitting a fraudulent or a fake block, they are then penalized against the stake they submitted. So a portion of that stake will then be removed from them as penalty for having submitted a fraudulent block, which is then obviously corrected. So the incentive with a proof of stake system, rather than it being computing power and proof of work, it's basically reliant based upon a monetary or a financial punishment or incentive. Because the system assumes that someone who's putting a larger proof of stake in is going to be less likely to submit a fraudulent block because they would then be penalized financially on the stake that they submitted. Now, because a proof of stake system does not require proof of work, it doesn't take a lot of computing power or an advanced computer in order to be set up as a node, meaning that your average person can more than qualify to be a node and a validator within that system, which means there's far more likely to be people willing to participate within that system. If you want to learn more about proof of stake cryptocurrencies, I'll leave a link down in the comment section for another video that does a really good job really breaking down in more detail how proof of stake actually works. So now that we've gone over the differences between proof of work cryptocurrencies and proof of stake cryptocurrencies, I'm going to talk about the differences between coins and tokens. So a lot of people will use coins and tokens pretty much interchangeably when they're talking about cryptocurrencies. I know me myself has been guilty of doing this as well. However, there actually is a distinction between coins and tokens. So essentially coins are going to be basically cryptocurrencies that have their own blockchain. So they're going to be the coin that is actually generated when that blockchain grows. Whereas a token does not have its own blockchain. It actually runs off the existing blockchain of another coin. So although tokens can be traded and do indeed have genuine use cases, they do not have their own blockchain. If a blockchain was created for a token, it would cease to be a token and would then become a coin. So essentially, tokens are traded using the blockchain of another coin. Perfect. Now you understand the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, and now you know the difference between a coin and a token. Well, other than those two categorizations, there's also lots of different use cases when we're talking about cryptocurrencies at large. As I mentioned before, there are now thousands of different cryptocurrencies that are out there, and a lot of them have completely different use cases. So that's why I always tell people to do your own research when you're looking at a coin to see what its intended use case is and if it's a serious project or not. What problem does this cryptocurrency aim to solve? So there's a lot of ways we could categorize cryptocurrencies, and we can make hundreds of different categories that might more distinctly determine the differences between cryptocurrencies. Or if we make smaller, more broad categories, there's going to be some coins that could fit into maybe multiple categories there. There's just such a large array and variety of cryptocurrencies and different use cases. For this video, I wanted to keep it kind of simple. So instead of creating a ton of different complex categories, I decided to essentially make 3 categories with 10 different subcategories in total. So let's go ahead and just go through these really quick. Cryptocurrencies have a lot more use cases than just being for money. A lot of people that are new to cryptocurrencies, they may assume that all cryptocurrencies are strictly designed to be a fiat currency system replacement, a decentralized currency system that is supposed to replace or run alongside fiat currencies. And that's actually not totally the case. Although there are cryptocurrencies designed to be used as a currency system, not all cryptocurrencies are strictly used for that purpose. So let's go ahead and jump into these different categories. So the first category is the currency category. And within this category, I have 3 subcategories. So the first subcategory is fiat replacement. So by fiat replacement, what I mean is a currency system that's decentralized that would be in place of current fiat systems that we have today. So some examples of coins like that would be Bitcoin, Litecoin, Nano, and Dogecoin, and these other coins you see here on the screen. Their entire purpose is to be used for daily exchange of goods and services. So basically, it's a fiat replacement or a fiat currency alternative. Next in the currency category would be stable coins. Now, stable coins are coins that are directly tied to an already existing fiat currency. So in a way, you could say it would replace a currency system, but rather it's actually directly tied to it. So one coin directly represents one item within a fiat currency system. So one of the more popular ones would be Tether or USDT. So one Tether is equivalent to $1 US, and its value is always tied directly to the dollar. So if the value of the dollar goes up, then theoretically the value of Tether would go up alongside it. So basically Tether just represents the US dollar. Now, other than Tether, there are other stablecoins that are out there that are also tied to other forms of fiat currency other than the US dollar. And new stablecoins are being generated almost every single day. Now, other than fiat currency replacement coins and coins that are directly tied to fiat currencies, we also have privacy coins. Now, when we look at coins like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, although they're semi-anonymous in and of the sense that your name is not directly tied to your wallet. There is ways that people can essentially trace or figure out who owns specific wallets through a lot of research and watching patterns of how people spend and use their money or their transaction history on specific wallets. So the point of privacy coins is to make these coins completely anonymous, meaning that it's impossible to track who the user or owner is of a specific wallet and what they're doing with that coin. So through many different methods, depending on the privacy coin that we're talking about, they made it completely anonymous or impossible to track who's using that coin or what they're doing with it. Now, a lot of people would assume that this is only going to be used for illicit or illegal activities, but that's not totally the case. Some people just enjoy the fact that they can have complete and utter privacy. There's no way of tracking it for tax purposes.
The IRS? No, thank you.
Now, obviously, there is a lot of other coins that could fit within these currency categories, and maybe even some of these coins could fit within other categories. Like I said, I wanted to try to keep this as simple as possible. So the next category we're going to talk about is the operations category. So this is going to be split into two subcategories. The first is platforms. So as you can see here on the screen, here are a few of the different cryptocurrencies I would categorize as a platform. So Ethereum and Cardano are probably going to be the more famous or most notable here. So coins and tokens in the platform category support decentralized applications with the intended purpose of eliminating intermediaries. There's also smart contracts that are designed so other tokens can then utilize their mainnet through these smart contracts and generate their own intended use cases and purposes. The next subcategory is going to be exchanges. Now, coins and tokens in the exchange category are going to be utilized for cryptocurrency exchanges, and they are kind of the backbone that runs these exchanges. So BNB would be used for Binance, and these other coins would be used for other exchanges, and helping these exchanges actually run and function in the exchanging of other coins and tokens for fiat currencies or other cryptocurrencies. So the last and largest category for cryptocurrencies is the utility category. So the utility category is for coins and tokens that have a very specific use case or utility, hence the name of the category. Now, the first subsection would be natural asset tokens. So these tokens or coins are going to be cryptocurrencies that directly represent physical goods and services, such as gold or oil or silver. They're a coin or token that's directly supposed to represent these. Basically, it's like bringing back the gold standard, but can also be used for other physical goods, like I mentioned before, oil and silver. The next section would be crypto collectibles. So these would be coins or tokens that are going to be used for NFTs and for other digital properties. So the purpose of these coins and tokens will be used to purchase, create, or raise unique digital assets. The next subsection would be security tokens, and this is a large subsection. So this would include digital bonds and other peer-to-peer transactions without the need for financial intermediaries. So there are a lot of different tokens and coins out there with different use cases that can go into this category. That can be used for insurance, for investing, for funding, and for a lot of other financial services without the need for an intermediary. And this is all done through smart contracts, like I mentioned before. So a good example of this is large groups of people could come together with smart contracts for the use of insurance, and they can then pool their money together into these smart contracts without needing a large insurance corporation running their insurance for them. So this could really shake up the insurance world in the future if these smart contracts start to become accepted as mainstream. But not only would the insurance world be shaken up, there's a lot of the different financial sectors within the world that would cut out a lot of these middlemen, making all of these services a lot cheaper. The next subcategory would be payment systems. So these are going to be coins and tokens that do things such as connecting banks or helping with the services of merchants and helping bank the unbanked. There is a large portion of the population worldwide that do not have access to a physical bank. So a lot of these payment system cryptocurrencies aim to help these individuals basically have access to a banking system that's decentralized. So a good example of these would be Omizi and Ripple. And the last subcategory for the utility section are the interoperability coins and tokens. So examples of these would be Icon and Arc, and their entire purpose is to connect platforms and other coins for the transmission of assets and coins and tokens. So these are basically the bridges that connect different platforms, assets, and cryptocurrencies. Of course, I'm sure there are other subcategories that we could probably create or think of, but these are just a few examples of different use cases that cryptocurrencies can have. And like I mentioned before, not all of them are strictly for the use of exchanging goods and services like a fiat currency replacement. As you can see here, there's a lot of other cryptocurrencies, unique and different use cases. That means that in a future where cryptocurrency rules supreme, there will always exist several different types of cryptocurrencies, as they will have completely different use cases, and there are a lot more than just fiat system replacements. I hope the video today was able to answer a lot of questions some people have had about the different types of cryptocurrencies out there. What is the difference between proof of work, proof of stake? What is a coin versus a token? And what are all these different use cases and categories for coins? Now, these categories I mentioned today are just categories that I kind of came up with to kind of help show that there are different use cases for different cryptocurrencies. As I've mentioned before, please do your own research about cryptocurrencies before you invest any money into them. See what the project's about. Do some research into the developers, what their intended use case is, and what they're trying to solve. There's a lot of utility that can be used with the blockchain technology, and I'm sure as time goes on, we'll generate and create new and more efficient systems to solve a lot of these issues that still exist within the cryptocurrency space. If there's maybe some categories I didn't cover very well, or any other suggestions you'd have for me on future videos, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
If you believe we put a man on the moon, man on the moon.
Oh, this is awkward. Didn't know you're still here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course click the notification bell. Bye.